Delta Labs Research Facility, Sector 2 North, contains the Biological Research Division, focusing on studying various specimens for matter transfer tests. All specimens are catalogued and stored locally. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Doom 3 commentary, and we have arrived at the second section of Delta Labs 2. Delta Labs 2B, to be precise, because the developers had to split the level up at some point, presumably. So we just passed through what was presumably Hell's Meat Grinder, and we have arrived on the other side. I told you in the end of the previous episode to perhaps remember that that guy exists, because he has a keycard right next to him, and we actually need that keycard to progress with the level, because our previous keycards do not work. The ones that we collected way back in Mars City. By the way, here's a flaming zombie! We haven't seen one of these guys in eternity, and they still don't really accomplish much. Still, I would have appreciated it if they took advantage of their resources and used them a little more often. Let's just dispose of the body. Get that done and over with. Now then, excuse me sir, would you mind if I collected this keycard right here? I guess he does mind. That's really all you need to look out for. Apart from that, he doesn't have a head. Thankfully, he's not carrying any bombs, otherwise I probably would have tried to dispose of him at a safe distance, but now we have the keycard, and running forwards, that's going to cause those two closets to open up, both of which have imps behind them, so one of them will crouch and pounce towards you. It's important to keep that in mind, because he's probably the biggest threat, and I mean, they also do still have that crouching attack, but it's not too much to worry about. We got a pretty decent pistol to take care of our foes, because we are Ubermaster Security Guard on the job. Now, this area has a whole bunch of glass windows, and you could see, out of the corner of my eye, there was a commando. A tentacle commando over there. And don't be deceived, like, he's not the only guy that's here. There's actually a chain gun commando straight around the corner. And he's arguably the bigger threat in this situation, so you want to take care of him as quickly as possible. A couple of rockets will take care of that, no problem. So this is the Take Care weapon. Be sure to take care of your foes with the Take Care launcher. And you can use it against zombies that are just kind of standing harmlessly in the corners right there. A little overkill, but to be honest, we're going to be acquiring a whole bunch of rocket packs in this level, so I'm not too concerned about wasting ammunition at the beginning. Running into this scary corridor is going to cause the lights to flicker, and that will reveal the presence of that commando, which kind of works to his disadvantage, because if the lights just got to stay deactivated, then maybe he would have had a chance to hit me. But after you take care of that zombie, that will cause an imp to spawn behind you. And over here we come across our first storage cabinet with a wrench that we could use to open up the storage cabinet. However, I don't know how to use my hands except for punching things. So instead, we're going to use this personal data assistant and observe in one of the emails that there is a cabinet code corresponding with this locker, and the code is 259. You can find it in an email that's labeled locker code change, I believe. So open that up, and we get some plasma rifle ammo and some shotgun shells. However, I'm doing pretty good on those, so I don't have a thing to worry about. Once you unlock this door, which I believe you need that PDA to begin with anyway, you're going to see two tentacle commandos running by, and if you shoot that guy, that's going to cause an imp to jump around the corner. Do not like that guy. This level, it's got a lot of crouching imps in it, which it kind of makes it one of my least favorite, but there are still elements of this level that I can appreciate. It's just, it really shows that I've forgotten that some crouching imps exist if I've managed to get hit by at least 2 or 3 of them in my test playthrough, and just do not like it. Well, if you're gonna start throwing corpses at me, I'm starting to think that you're running out of attacks and ideas in that field. But once we run into this field, we're gonna see a couple of people walking by, and suddenly the lights are all shut off, so that way we can raise our performance in this area, and that will cause an Archvile to appear, and Archviles in this game function a little bit differently. First of all, I will get to explaining what Archviles do, but I have to start running backwards for some rather important reasons. Reasons of which you may be able to guess. Cause enemies to spawn behind you. And it doesn't just stop all the way back at this particular darkened hallway. In fact, if you sprint back all the way to the start of the level, guess who appears in the teleporter pad? Come on now. Yeah, you guessed it. It's another imp. Chainsaw. Why do they do this to me, guys? I don't understand. I'm just discovering so many random imps just hiding in the worst places of all time. because you have no reason to run back all this way unless you're truly terrified of Archviles. Which is a good point to segue into, because Archviles were like the worst enemies in Doom 2 for me. I hated them. They had this fire summoning attack, which was effectively hit scan. If you didn't manage to take cover behind a building, then that could kill you in 2 shots, basically. In this game, they technically still have that attack, but they only use it if you're up on a higher elevation, and even then, if you just sprint out of the way, then it possibly won't hit you at all. Their main fire jet stream attack on the ground floors involves just a straight line. So, if they shoot fire towards you, you could just move to the left or the right and you could dodge it easily. Of course, they do have melee attacks as well. That's important to keep in mind because pretty much any enemy in this game has a melee attack. And they do not resurrect dead enemies. Instead, they opt to summon new ones because, quite frankly, I don't think Doom 3's id Tech engine could really effectively manage to hold as many enemies as the classic Doom days did, because the corpses would stay behind in the classic games, but in this game, in order to ease an average PC's performance, then the corpses just gradually fade away. Which is good, because it makes it a lot more of a pleasant experience. I actually didn't quite mean to quick save right there, so if I die, I'm not going to load that quick save, because that will just be kind of cheap of me. I'm gonna... oh, I guess he's not gonna have a chance to use that fire summoning attack. I wanted to see if he would do it, but the plasma rifle is just too strong. So, I apologize for that, ladies and gentlemen, but perhaps you will see a demonstration some other time. But let's duck into this crawl space and move on. Possibly get scared by a few noises inside the ventilation duct.
Interesting. Ah, you surprised me. I'm glad to see you. I would have hoped they would have sent more than just one guy, though. I've been studying one of the specimens we brought back to see if there's something physiological that would be a weakness, a way to stop them. I found nothing so far. Haven't had enough time. I'm gonna stay here and keep looking. It's the only thing I can do. There are combat supplies in the storage cabinet in the next room. The code is 624. I hope you can use it.
And if you are extremely adverse to listening to NPCs talk, you may miss that particular storage code cabinet, and I don't think you can get it back if you miss that bit of dialogue. So, be sure to keep that one in mind. The cabinet on the left, it doesn't really contain anything too interesting. It's mostly commonplace items such as shotgun shells, bullets, and cells. The cabinet on the right contains a BFG cell. And as you know, we want to be collecting as much BFG ammo as possible. Not that we're going to use it all, I don't believe, but it's important to have this stuff at hand. So, that door's over there is locked. Let's say goodbye to Mr. Dr. Scientist over here, as he continues to study that charred corpse of an imp. Which is odd, because you'd think imps would survive in fire more easily, but you know how it is. And that causes another Archvile to spawn, and as long as we just aim for headshots as usual, or, you know, just towards the body, I suppose that works as well. He only summons one imp at a time in this place, so if you just want to take some time out to take care of at least one of those imps, then that's obviously not a problem, because it's just one single imp. Oh yeah, you also want to watch out for that guy, because he jumps down from the balcony, and you actually have to kill that guy in order to proceed with the level, so if you happen to miss that particular enemy spawn, just run backwards and he should summon himself, so don't worry about it. And here we come across the Demon Museum! And over here, we can get a file about these guys. Well, I can see you're not very friendly, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to download all the information so I get to know more things about you. And you can read these if you like. They're actually pretty cheesy, mainly because they give the actual game names of these enemies. Like, they call this a Revenant, and they called this a Hell Knight, or the vertebrae of a Hell Knight. It's, I don't know, it's just little things like that always seem kind of jarring because you'd think that these scientists would classify them with some sort of more, I don't know, science-y name, but that's just me, anyway.
Hello? Anyone there? Hello? Someone up there? Please unlock the service hatch.
He's locked in the service hatch, you say? Okay, let's go investigate where this gentleman is. Well, I think that was to be expected. I want you to take a wild guess as to what's around this corner. Don't worry, it's not too difficult to figure out. But that was that man's assassin. It's important that you actually head back down here because there is a PDA that corresponds with the storage cabinet a little later in the level. It would have been much safer if he just stood up there and that imp possibly wouldn't have found him, but details, details. As long as we collected his PDA, in the end, that's all that matters. So let's exit from the storage hatch. Watch out for this imp because he's slinging some fireballs. Use your chainsaw against him if you so desire. And over here we come across another blackout section, which we last encountered one of these at the Alpha Labs, and this area is kind of similar. We have to take one of these little stasis chambers, which acts as an overglorified lava lamp, and you want to have this guy traveling with you because he can illuminate the path of which there will be enemies appearing, such as that guy right there. But we do also have a plasma rifle, which works pretty well as a glow-in-the-dark function against any enemy foes. The only enemies you'll be encountering in this area are imps, but imps may be able to leap towards you, which can be a little bit disorienting, so just be a little bit mindful of that. And go ahead, you can see you could actually find a spare... Okay, I'm quite positive that one of the remaining imps just got killed by that light bulb back there. That was kind of unexpected. But you want to be cautious when you collect this plasma rifle, cool bluey plasma thingy, because that drops you into an area with flashing lights and it's got 2 imps in it. I'm still distracted by the fact that that imp just got crushed by the lava lamp. Like, how? How do these things happen? Is just my only question. I don't know. But I hope it continues to happen in the future because it makes my job slightly easier. And I'm going to be ignoring the utility of that giant light bulb simply because it's much faster to just sprint forward with my flashlight, because I know what's to be expected in this area. Just a whole bunch of imps, some of them spawning behind you. And with that, that's the first section out of the way, and I may stick around to see what happens when that light bulb approaches the decontamination chamber over here. Because here's the storage cabinet that belongs to Mr. Jacob Stemmons, which we found in the locked service hatch. And the code for this one is 371. You can locate it in an email regarding the storage locker update, I believe is what it was. And there you go. You can watch the decontamination chamber sequence rush it through. That imp is still pretty sleepy, so he doesn't quite know what's going on. Also be careful when you run out this door because that causes a crouching imp to appear. And once you descend this little staircase, that causes an imp to spawn behind you! Hey! Fun, fun, fun. But we are almost at the end of this section. It actually doesn't last too long. There should only be about 2 imps that appear in this area. There's one over there, and one flanking him. And if you check behind that corridor where they spawned, you can find a pack of rockets, which is very important. It's good to have those rockets. And how many do I have? I have 30 rockets. That's pretty good for the time being, but I think we could use a little bit more. Also, watch out for this guy. I nearly forgot about the fact that he existed, but don't worry. My reflexes remembered at the very last second. This guy isn't so scary because he's just one of those harmless ones that says, "Hello, how you doing?" Hit this button to unlock this door, and you can see we are back at the Demon Museum. So that's very lovely. And if you want to watch that little video that plays inside the Demon Museum, then you can find the floppy disk over here. Ascend! And we come across a thirsty burst! Juice cabinet! Catch the burst! I would give myself a soda, and unfortunately this is not Half-Life 1 where you can't hit the button and cans pop out and that gives you 1 point of health each time. I wish they kept that in this game because that would have been a nice reference to Half-Life. Also be careful because there's an imp behind this closet, as well as his cousin who sits behind that closet. But, alright, I thought I'd have to pick up one of the armor shards to do that, but no, you just have to run over them and that causes it to spawn. It's important to take a note of the fact that these imps exist because they are just the worst. And over here, we come across this artifact that doesn't appear to exist to begin with. But yeah, this is the one that the TV is talking about, and I believe they call it the Soul Cube. Unfortunately, the artifact appears to be absent because Betruger may have in fact stolen it, which appears to be a huge problem. But you can learn more about that by listening to that terminal or collecting the video disc about that terminal over here, and move on.
I have the Soul Cube in hell, and you will never find it.
Is that a challenge? By the way, here's a storage cabinet, and this is the best cabinet in the entire level. And for obvious reasons, you may be able to guess why that is. If you punch in the code that appears on the sticky note, you get this. I don't really like any crouching imp except for that guy in this game, because that's clever. I appreciate that one. And there's some armor if you so desperately need it, but I think we're good in terms of that. We're almost at the very end of this level, actually. We just have a couple more enemies to pass through, including this guy, and I couldn't quite get that headshot, but it's okay, because I crouched to avoid his whip-slinging attack. And if you want to sprint towards this guy and chainsaw him in the back, that's definitely an option right there. Also be careful because that spawns his brother over in the distance. Boom! So there is actually only one single crouching imp remaining in this entire level. It's in this closet right over here, and this guy is the most difficult crouching imp in the game to avoid. I've only managed to do it once, and I can't exactly remember what my footing was precisely when I decided to run across the trigger and activate it, but run over here. Okay, if you just hug the wall, then you'll be able to avoid it, but trust me. Otherwise, if you don't heed my advice, then you're just going to get slapped, and ugh. What is with their obsession of crouching imps in this game? I really do not understand, but it's not an effective ploy of spooking the player, it's just annoying is what it is. You may have observed in this room that there are a bunch of locked doors, and in order to acquire the codes to unlock these doors, you have to head into Miss Elizabeth McNeil's quarters. And Elizabeth McNeil is a titular character, or just a lead character in the, the Resurrection of Evil expansion pack. But she doesn't have any audio logs, so you don't know what she sounds like. Instead, she just has a whole bunch of emails, which actually relate to some of these doors, including the storage cabinet door. And the code for this is 725, which you can locate in her email regarding the storage room code. And open that up and we can come across the second Martian Buddy cabinet in the whole game. And if you recall the code all the way back from administration, the code is 0508. And I mean, Martian Buddy is sending people free BFG 9000, so I'd recommend that you collect that one as well. In order to access the exit, however, you also need to observe in greater detail Elizabeth McNeil's email regarding the access code to level 3. Delta Labs level 3, and the code for this is 463, I believe. Let's punch that in. There you go. And with that, we find the exit of the level, including a worthy candidate of the chainsaw. Just to give you an idea of how powerful this weapon still is, because it deals with archviles in a very similar fashion to most enemies in this game, with absolutely zero problems, of course, because they take a lot of time to summon enemies. But that's pretty much the end of the level. We're all done here, so let's hit the elevator button and exit Delta Labs 2.